Everyone, welcome to the September monthly marketing meeting. I'm Sean Bailey, editor-in-chief at Horsesmouth. I'm here with Devin Kropp, associate editor. Devin runs our advisor client turnkey marketing program. We're here every month to talk with you about, usually we start off broad with a topic of general interest to anybody who's watching, since we are on multiple platforms as we speak. And then in the middle and end, we bring our focus down, to the kind of what is the marketing strategy that we've teed up for advisor, client, and master members this month. And we get into the details on that. And then toward the end, we answer a couple of member questions, some member marketing questions. So, Devin, great to see you. Let's jump in. It's September. What does that mean?
So like Sean said, we normally start with something a little bit broad. And today we're going to be a little bit more specific than we normally are and talk about a particular handout that we think is really impactful for you to be using for clients and prospects at the end of the year. And that focuses around year-end communication and sending out pieces that are going to be impactful in getting clients and prospects into your office for a meeting at the end of the year to make sure everything looks good, identify any problems that they may be having in the next year or anything that you should know about, possibly getting those prospects in to become clients because of some of the issues they're now facing that maybe they weren't facing a few months ago. So it's all about getting those meetings at year end to help kind of you to reach those year-end business growth goals. And also just, let your clients know that you're there for them if they're going to be experiencing any changes now at the end of the year or going into the beginning part of next year. And so we're going to be showing one of our handouts here, and we'll walk through, what's included on it. But of course, the general idea here is having some sort of comprehensive communication piece to send out at the end of the year for your clients and prospects that's going to walk them through the key kind of financial areas that they should be thinking about at year end, where, they might have experienced changes in the past year and what next year might look like if there's going to be a major difference. So we have our own version of this. We call it the Last Chance Financial Planning Checklist. So I'm actually going to share my screen right now so you guys can see it and we can kind of walk through, why we think this handout is so impactful, how to use it, and what's included on the handout here. So here you'll see the PDF download. This is a free PDF download for our advisor client and our master members. This product, though, is also a standalone product. So if you're not a member of either of those programs and you're tuning in, you can actually purchase this handout separately as well. But for our master and our advisor client members, you get access to this PDF for free as part of your membership. It would be personalized with your information up here. It has me up here right now, but this would all be yours. And you can see it's a really interactive handout to be sending to your list because your clients or your prospects are going to read through it and they're actually going to physically check off the areas that they want to discuss with you or meet with you about. And then they can bring this into the meeting and you kind of have this agenda already built out for you where you're going to touch on these certain aspects and to incorporate it into their plan for next year. So we can kind of go through it here. You'll see the instructions, letting them know, read through this, check everything that applies to you. And we can go over these items and discuss different scenarios as we go into next year. And so there's a section here for taxes, thinking about, the different areas that might be of concern to them or where they might have changes. If you have clients or prospects who are, planning for retirement or thinking about retiring in the next year, they may have some questions here in retirement, things about, Roth IRA conversions, required minimum distributions. There's a good amount of confusion around that with the new Secure Act age changes. So you might have clients or prospects who are unsure about when they need to actually take their RMDs now. So that could be an area of concern for them. Social Security claiming is also another, area that people might be starting to think about, especially maybe prospects who you've had on your list for a long time, but now they're coming into this Social Security claiming age and they have questions and they want to meet with you about that. We also have a section on investments. That's pretty self-explanatory, but they might have, areas here that they want to discuss. Then we go into insurance. So any sort of, reviewing your current policies, thinking about health insurance, Medicare, things like that. A whole milestone section. I think this is a really important section here because we call out kind of specific ages here where people need to start taking new actions that they haven't taken in the past because they're turning a new age. And so for a lot of people, they might not have all the information that they need to know about these steps, and they immediately see their age there, or an age that they're turning in the next year, and say, oh yeah, I do need to discuss this with you. I'm not sure when I'm going to apply for Social Security benefits. I'm confused about Medicare. So this is a great opportunity, I think, the milestone section, to really get people to self-identify that they need help on these areas and get them into your office. There's also a health section about health insurance and anything like FSAs, HSAs, and all of that, Medicare. So this is another great impactful area. And there's a backside of it, or a second page, that goes through changes. So these could be, anything from moving, buying or selling a home, marriage, divorce, birth, grandchildren. Kind of just goes through these major life changes that they might want to discuss with you as it impacts their future financial plan. And then family too, things like education accounts, trusts, cash gifts. So it really is a very comprehensive checklist that they can go through and identify things that they think, either is going to happen to them or happened this past year that they want to discuss, or it's going to happen the next year. There's notes and next steps, which during your meeting with them, you can, write everything down. They can write down stuff here, so it's very clear of what's going on. And then also another great area for you to be able to build your professional network out is you can have your clients or prospects kind of provide any contact info for their other professionals. And this could be, you saying, well, you had questions about your taxes, so it might be, beneficial for me to talk to your CPA so we can get that sorted out. If you have a question with your trusts or your will, we could talk to your attorney. So a great place for you to kind of be able to build out that professional network as well. So all in all, this is the handout. And again, it's probably one of our most popular handouts that people use at Horsesmouth, just because it is such a great way to touch base at the end of the year. And clients and advisors alike both enjoy this handout because, again, it serves almost as like an artifact for a meeting that they have, right? The client brings this in, things are checked off. You can write down notes and next steps. You both can refer back to it. You know exactly what was discussed. You can put a copy into their, folder, so you have a good memory of what happened here. And it really lays out, the different areas that affect their financial plan. It reminds them of everything that you do for them, right? All of these different 8 areas that we see here. It serves as a reminder that you provide value in all of these different areas for them. If they're entering a new life stage and they've never, needed your help with, retirement planning or something like that, now they're being reminded that you're here to help them with Medicare or Social Security. So it's a really great handout. And we have some other pieces that go along with it. But before we jump into that, Sean, do you have anything to add here? Just the handout itself.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Just that, as we've commented many times over the years, repeatedly advisors tell us that they send this out to their clients in advance, and it generates meetings and generates business, and often, brings in additional assets or policies or whatever the case may be, or, new things are discovered. You think you know what's going on roughly with your clients' lives, but can you scroll to the second page there for a second?
Course.
But, everybody knows sometimes there's clients out there, they switch a job, they get married or divorced. They don't really, you're not necessarily in the immediate group of people who hear the news. And so sometimes it comes as a bit of a surprise to hear that, they bought a vacation home, or they sold a vacation home, or somebody's getting married, or they changed a job, or if they decided, to move, whatever the case may be. So just even the changes alone tends to reveal a meaningful and important information that gives you an additional opportunity to, deliver value in your client's life. And so it's not just about doing business necessarily, but it's also about, being able to, help people, remind them of certain, obstacles or, landmines that are embedded in certain life changes, all that sort of thing. So it's a great handout for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, for our master members and advisor client members, you get a PDF of this free. You can also order hard copies through us or get it printed yourself. And we do recommend sending out this checklist multiple times in multiple ways. You can definitely send it out, via email and have, a cover letter that goes with it. We have a toolkit that accompanies this handout that will have cover letters written out for you already that you can just kind of cut and paste and personalize and send it out. But this is also a handout that I think there's some good reason to send out physical hard copies of it as well, because you probably experience this too. You get these attachments sent or a link to it, and you look through it, but you're not probably going to print it out on your own, and then you're not going to check things off. The whole point of this is we want them to have this physical copy in their hand that they're physically checking off and bringing into your office for the meeting. So I think there is good value in following up, from an email to a hard copy of this as well, where they can sit down with their family and look through it. And then when they schedule that meeting, are bringing in that physical copy for you to look at together. And so we recommend sending both, the PDF and the hard copy, and, sending out multiple communications around this piece, because between now and the end of the year, you really want to try to get them to complete this and schedule that meeting so you can discuss, what needs to be discussed and, have those impactful, meaningful meetings before year end.
Yeah, and depending upon what your posture and approach is to your client newsletter and the frequency with which you run it, but this, I think you ought to send this out, with, an email to all, and then it become a standing item in your other newsletter contacts between now and the end of the year, just so that people can be reminded of it. And, again, it's a great piece, and it is, even if people don't want to do it, it delivers the message of, oh, Sean's my advisor, and, he's really on it. He's always, giving us the opportunity to get back to him on these, critical financial planning topics. So it's good that, and I guess, Devin, you're going to talk about the webinar piece as well, which is another nice element to the whole program.
Yeah, so this card is actually what spurred us to create what we call our client action webinars. We had a master member who Sean and I were meeting with on a semi-regular basis as she was trying to kind of revamp her marketing plan. And we were talking about sending out this card, and she really wanted a way to kind of do like a group meeting with her clients to just go over the card to incentivize them to actually complete it and fill it out. And she thought, well, if I just send them the copies, I know like some of my clients will do it, but I know some of them are just not gonna just do it. And I really want to get them to look through this and spend some time with it. So she actually kind of came up with this idea of just doing a webinar. I think it was at like 8 a.m. on like a Wednesday morning. And she invited her clients, told them to, show up with their coffee. She showed up with her cup of coffee, and she simply just walked them through this card, talking about, the different areas that we went over, the 8 different areas, why each one of them is important. She highlighted a couple of different, check boxes there that she thought would be most relevant to her client base, and encouraged them as she was going through it to mark off their checklist. She had already previously sent them that hard copy. So they all showed up with their hard copy. And as she went through, they checked off the things, that were relevant to them. At the end of the call, she said, let's schedule a meeting so we can discuss it. She made it really easy for them to do so. Based on our conversation with her, we actually then decided, no, this is a great idea, and we should create this for all of our advisors to use. And also, we then did it for many more of our handouts too. But essentially, we created a very short PowerPoint presentation that is just going over the 8 different areas. There's a script that goes with it. The whole idea is that, you have your clients or prospects come on for 15, 20, 30 minutes. You give a short presentation on the card. Again, you give them that hard copy ahead of time. You ask them to complete it. And it just helps, give them time in their schedule to really sit down with this piece and think about the different areas that they want to discuss with you. So that's also part of this campaign. It's available to download in the advisor client campaign. And it's something that I think as part of your communications around this, you schedule that event and, you send it out a couple of times, you have this event come, people show up, they're able to complete it, and then make sure there's we include a call to action at the end to schedule that meeting, but make it really easy for them to schedule that meeting so you can, get them to come in and discuss the different areas that are relevant to them.
Devin, I see a question from Terry. She's asking, has anyone used this with prospects, such as people on the constant contact list?
I believe so. I mean, I think that there are plenty of advisors who not only send this out to clients, but send it out through their whole list as well, especially as an email. I don't know how many are sending a PDF hard copy to their entire list, but I definitely think that there are advisors out there who are sending out, email copies, PDF copies of this via email, inviting those prospects to the client action webinar, certainly. And again, this is a great thing, I think, for prospects who maybe have been on your list for a while and now are entering a new chapter or something new is happening. And this checklist reminds them of that and says, now is the time that I really need to talk to Terry and, I'm going to schedule a meeting. So I would certainly encourage you to send it out to prospects as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think sending it out, I think it's great to send it out to prospects. I mean, this is kind of like marketing in action. You've got prospects, they've been on the fence, they've been on your list. And, like I was saying before, your clients look at it and say, yeah, Terry sends me this, she's all over it. Prospects look at it and it's like, wow, this is very comprehensive. I guess this is an example of the level of service that Terry delivers to her clients. So I think that's a great idea, Terry. All right, Devin. So let's move on to part 2 of our monthly marketing meeting, where we take a closer look at the specific recommendations or specific marketing tactics that we have teed up for advisors for the coming month. So over to you.
Okay, so for September, our monthly theme here is healthcare planning. And for each month, we try to have an article reprint, a client handout, and then webinars that you can then use to, use in your communications and your marketing plan. So our reprint for the month is how to build a retirement healthcare budget. We talked briefly about this last month, but I'll mention it here again. It goes through, when clients or prospects are in that pre-retirement stage, walking them through how to create a realistic budget for healthcare, as we know that healthcare is usually one of the top expenses for retirees. So letting them know this information ahead of time, walking them through how they can start to build out a budget that is realistic so they know, how much their premiums are going to be, what's that going to cover, what's it not going to cover. And that's a really important aspect of retirement, deciding when and how they can retire and what their healthcare is going to look like in a retirement. So this is a great piece to send out to clients and prospects who are entering kind of that pre-retirement, retirement phase and are starting to think about what that budget is going to look like overall as they move into retirement. And then we also have...
I mean, I just wanted to jump in for a second and just point out that, as many advisors are well aware of this, many clients these days aren't moving directly from working to not working. Sometimes there's this interim situation. All sorts of questions about healthcare come up relating to if they're working past 65 and do they stay on Medicare or they stay on their employer, sign up for Part A, what are all the issues there? And it is an anxiety-filled period of time for some people. And so this is an opportunity for you to be out there and, be acting with some wisdom and insight about this tricky world and be able to show your clients, what they need to be looking out for as it relates to their own particular situations.
Yes, thank you. And along with this handout, we also have the healthcare quick reference guide, which we recommend sending out in the month of September. And this is kind of a Medicare overview. So if you have, clients, prospects who are entering that Medicare age of 65, or, that's going to happen in the next few years, this could be a great piece to send them. It just kind of covers different premiums, different enrollment periods, the deductibles for the year, all of kind of the key things that they need to know. It's two-sided as well, and it's personalized with your information as well. We also have a client action webinar that goes along with this handout too, if that's something that you're interested in, if you have a lot of clients entering that Medicare phase and you want to get out there with that information. So again, this is another great handout that you can send out during the month of September for your clients. And then October, our theme is cybersecurity. It's National Cybersecurity Month. So we try to, whenever we can, make our themes mirror, different things that are going on. So October is National Cybersecurity Month. So we have a whole month dedicated to cybersecurity handouts. Our reprint for the month is 4 Common Elder Scams, How to Stay Safe and Fight Back. This is a growing and huge problem that we see with the elderly being targeted by certain kinds of scams. So this walks you through some of the most common ones, and it also gives people, what to look out for, how to protect themselves, and what to do if they actually do fall victim to those scams. So this is not only a great piece to send out to your clients who may themselves be elderly, but those who are also caregivers for, aging parents or aging loved ones. So they're aware of what to look for. This is, great for them as well. So this is a really important piece, I think, to be sending out this month, or October, I'm sorry. And then we also, of course, recommend sending out the Last Chance checklist, which we just covered. And we also have a key planning and investment deadline postcard. And then, of course, too, we have our Savvy Cybersecurity presentations that you can build into your event plan for October as well.
Yeah, Devin. And by the way, I was just reminded earlier today with a conversation about on the cybersecurity front, we wrote our book, Hack Proof Your Life Now, back in 2016, and we've since updated it. But somebody showed me a very, very good phishing email the other day. When we started working back in 2016, it was fairly easy to spot a phishing email, but they're getting more and more sophisticated. And so taking the opportunity in October to re-engage your clients about the fact that you care about their cybersecurity because no one else does, and it's important, and it is a financial exposure issue as well. It's just a great thing to do that we have found over the years that advisors tell us their clients, they put on all sorts of other events, but their clients are always talking about, how much they love the cybersecurity event. So just a reminder that it plays well with the public.
Yes. Okay, that brings us, I think, to our third and final part of our meeting here, which is member questions. I'm just trying to pull my questions up here right now. Okay. The first question we had come in is, what are some marketing strategies that are working for younger generations?
Yeah, that's a good one, Devin.
It is. And I think, I can start my answer here.
Okay.
I think
I can jump in, but
yeah.
should speak from your own position, I suppose.
I think a lot of times we kind of focus, while certainly there are differences between generations and how you market to them, I think for the most part, the same principles apply. I think that the younger generations still want education on different financial topics, and maybe those topics look a little bit different than boomer clients right now because of the different phases of life. But I still think that there is a huge, huge opportunity and huge need for financial education for younger generations. So if you're looking at, Gen X, millennials, I think looking at things, like college planning is really impactful for that generation. Even, Gen X, some of them are reaching Social Security claiming age. So, your regular
no
ones are
longer
gonna, right. It's no longer,
Yeah.
the younger generation. So there's some things that just are going to keep working as you move into that next generation. But if you're looking at, the younger side of that generation or millennials, I think things like, late stage college planning as they start thinking about their kids is important. We recently came out with a first time home buying presentation that I think that will have a huge amount of traction around millennials who are now entering, that phase of life of trying to buy a home for the first time. Even things like, I think, caregiving and long-term care planning, while that typically we think about that with, retirees, there's a lot of younger people who are starting to think about, oh, I might be a caregiver for my parents, or I want to be aware of this so I can have these conversations, with my family as well. Legacy planning, I think, too, is important. So for the most part, I think the tactics don't necessarily change, but maybe you focus, the content on something else. So instead of maybe focusing on Medicare and Social Security, it turns to some topics that might be more relevant for the generation or the age group that you're looking to target. But I think for the most part, those strategies, those principles stay similar.
Yeah, I think, I want to bring Gen Z into the conversation there because they are genuinely younger generation. And I think everything you said is absolutely true. But when you get down to, the younger group of millennials and the Gen Zers, you definitely have some issues of worldview that are different than the Gen Xers and the boomers. For instance, their worldviews, right? They tend to be much more comfortable with issues of diversity and inclusivity and that sort of thing. They are interested in things like purpose over profit. I'm going to be interviewing an advisor next week who took the concept of, Tom's shoes, those shoes, and where you buy a pair and then there's a pair that is given to, every pair you buy, there's a pair given to someone in another part of the world who needs shoes. And then there's a sock company, I think, did the same thing, whatever. There's an advisor I know who is giving 10% of his profits to local nonprofits. And he is a Gen Z advisor. And so I'm going to be doing an interview with him. So that's an example of purpose over profit. The other thing is, this group is much more digitally native, right? They've been working on the internet and with apps and that sort of stuff their entire lives. So for instance, if your firm or the platforms that you're keeping, your clients' assets on, have an app that gives people the ability to, get in and look at their accounts and manage it right from their smartphone. But you might not have really, dug into that too much because you thought, some of your older clients weren't interested in it, but now you're seeing younger clients. They're very interested in the digital stuff as well. And so it might be time, if you are going after younger generations, to be sure that, you're fully leveraging any of the technology pieces that are at your disposal, right? And then, of course, we know social media, they're more interested in social media, but they're not interested in, broadcast emails and that sort of thing. They're interested in more customized educational content for sure. So I just wanted to add that in there, Devin.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm glad you brought up the digital aspect too, because I'll make a general statement as a millennial myself. I think webinars are going to be huge for the younger generations. Most of us have very little interest in going to an in-person educational event. Most people are busy, young kids at home, and just don't have the time for that. So whereas maybe the educational events were almost a social thing for a lot of boomers or even some of the elder Gen X. I think millennials and Gen Z are going to focus at least more now towards having a webinar option where that's just
Yeah.
going to be a better fit. And so you might want to consider that too when you're thinking about events. And things like that too. So just,
Yeah, which include,
aside.
looking, taking advantage of, running a blog or the video content for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
As long as it's short,
Yep.
will be pretty critical. So, all right. I think we handled that one pretty well, Devin.
I think so too. And our second question was, how can I become better known in my community as a financial advisor?
Yeah, well, that's, there's a variety of ways to answer that. One of the first things that came to my mind is that I would start by, I don't think that as many advisors who could do take advantage of cultivating the CPAs and the accountants in your area. I mean, people have been hearing about this for years and we've built a whole program, our advisor CPA program, where we give advisors the ability to educate CPAs and other professionals in their community around a host of important financial planning topics. You put on an event live or a webinar, you're able to give them CPE credit for those who are accountants or CPAs, and they really love that. And the great thing about that is that you're educating them, they get to see you in action. And when people have leaned into that and, not given up on it after one or two tries, but just make it a regular part of their marketing strategy and get out in their community, people just, keep coming back year after year saying, wow, this is really great, low key way for me to get known in my community by cultivating those professional relationships. So, that definitely is one thing I think people should keep in mind. The other thing is if you live in a area that still has, a small but well appreciated local newspaper where the advertising is actually fairly cheap, to buy a quarter page ad in those small newspapers, but don't buy it once or twice, buy it for a whole year, get out there and then do some educational events in your community as well. What people discover is that after a while, there's a synergy. People know, like, they've heard your name or they've seen you, they've seen your advertising for your educational event, and they see it reinforced in the local paper. And so, that's another way to do it, beyond the obvious stuff of, becoming a member of the local, civic organizations, and that sort of stuff. I think, making an effort to be educational, be different. I'm always amazed at people who put on shredding events, right? People have tons of paper they want to get shredded for some reason. I mean, I guess I should be keeping it all stacked here in my office. But so, that's just another example where it can be helpful. And going back to the CPAs, and tax accountants in general, one of the smartest things I know is a number of advisors over the years who, like in May or June, throw a small, outdoor event, a barbecue or whatever the case may be, for the CPAs and tax accountants in their area, because the April rush which now seems to go on longer and longer, all that's over with. And, they're over the hump for the year. Yes, there's more deadlines coming up. They're busy all year round. But once they get over that initial hump, and you're the local advisor who just holds a little barbecue and beer thing for them or whatever the case may be, and you just do that as a sort of appreciation event for them. That has sort of thing has worked very well also. So those are some things I would consider. What comes to mind for you, Devin?
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up the CPA thing. For everyone listening, we don't actually discuss our answers before we come on here, but my answer was very similar. In our advisor CPA program, we have a campaign that's about kind of building this like formal referral network where you kind of partner up with different professionals in the community and you meet, monthly or bi-monthly, whatever kind of works for your group, talk about things you're facing in your business, and the whole idea is that everyone brings one referral to each meeting for somebody else in the group, and that's the formal version of the group that you could form. But part of that campaign, if you're not ready to commit to that formal thing, is to actually kind of create this like professional directory for your community of different professionals, so attorneys, CPAs, you as a financial advisor, even things like personal trainers or personal shoppers. Like it can really kind of span the whole gamut here, and then sharing that with people in the community, new people who move into your community, so they're getting kind of this directory of professionals that they can turn to as new members of the community. So I kind of was going there with that. And also I think I was just sponsoring different events in the community or showing up to volunteer at different events and kind of make your name for yourself there too is another way. If there's a 5K and you can be a sponsor of some sort, or another community festival or event where they're looking for people to table or even just volunteer in some way, could be a way to meet some more people outside of the regular ideas of education and your regular marketing. So that's where I was kind of going with that question.
Yeah, and Tom Duffy mentions, frequency, intensity, duration of effort. So you need to be consistent with the marketing. And we know, it's Devin, we're moving into that time of year again where we have to mention, the shocking statistic that, more than 75% of financial advisors, go into any given year with no written marketing strategy, no marketing plan for what they're going to do in the coming year. And, we come up with all sorts of different approaches, and we're going to have a new approach this year for that. But, people don't do that. So that you need to make the marketing and the outreach activities part of everything you do. It doesn't dominate your business because you're too busy delivering, great client service, but you need to have that thing on the schedule on a regular basis, whether it's the educational events, the client appreciation events, getting involved with the local community, cultivating local professionals. I love that idea of creating a local guide of professionals in your area and to lead that up. And, now with a variety of superpowered AI search tools, something like that can be probably even easier than ever before to get your rough draft list of who the people are who should be on it. So yeah, I really like that one too. All right. Well, Devin, I think that brings us to the end of another monthly marketing meeting, right?
I think so.
All right, everyone. Well, take care and don't pass up on that chance for the last chance financial planning checklist. It is something you really want to do. So take care, everybody. Thanks, John.